Hello, welcome back. Are you ready to get salty? We're here with unpopular bookish and writerly opinions, some of mine and some of yours. So I think I'm going to split my opinions in half. I'm going to share some of my unpopular opinions, and we're going to do some of yours, and then we're going to come back and finish it off with mine. Everybody loves a good unpopular opinions video. Obviously, you're free to differ in your opinions from me, and you can tell me all about it in the comments, but of course I do require that everybody be polite down there. I don't want to hear any bullying happening, alright? This is a good Christian channel. It's not, but you know what I mean. We consult eloquently. We don't need to resort to name calling or whatever. Let's get on to the unpopular opinions, alright? Alright. The first of my hottest of hot takes is that I think that both traditional and self-publishing are equally valid. That drives some people crazy. They want me to pick a side. And I'm like, no, I see the validity and the usefulness of both of them. I don't find either of them to be inferior to the other one. I think they're just different. Things can be different without one of them being inherently better than the other one. Now, maybe there's a better one for you, but that doesn't mean that's a better one for everybody. Here's a writerly hot take that I have. I am kind of fed up with worlds where magical people who are inherently more powerful than regular people are subjugated for not good enough reasons. I know why it is. It's because we, the reader, want to see ourselves as the magical, special people. But it's also no fun if those people are in power, because it's also way more fun to see ourselves as the downtrodden, the underdog. And so we have these, magical people who could totally just take over and rule if they wanted to, using their powers. Oh, I could kill that guy with a fireball, but he could stab me with a sword, so I guess I better just do as he says. Now, of course, some people have been able to justify it in their worlds, but more often than not, I just see it as it's supposed to be taken as a matter of course, that of course these magical people would allow themselves to be subjugated, and would not, for some reason, I guess just inherent goodness of magical people? For some reason, none of them would ever rise up and take power, and I'm over it. And now I'm more interested in writing worlds where I feel like the natural thing would be that magical people would take over and claim power and try to rule over non-magical people. This next one is not very controversial, but it's a hot take. Anger issues is the oopsie, I'm kind of clumsy for poorly written male characters. You know how you want to give your character a flaw, but you can't be bothered to come up with anything? So for female characters, you just make her trip over her own feet for no reason. And for male characters, explosive temper. That makes him attractive, right? Yeah, sure. I'm not going to think any harder about it. Finally, the last of mine, before I go on to some of yours, and then we'll come back to mine, is that I generally don't enjoy reading intentionally unlikable characters. And people will be like, ugh, Julian, you only like happy people? What's the matter? You can't handle real life and grit? And it's like, well, I come to my books to escape, so that's part of it. But I also just have no tolerance for just characters that are always miserable. I don't like reading about just miserable, angry, grumpy assholes. It's just not fun for me. Morally gray characters, sure, all day long. Very, very rarely here for an intentionally unlikable main character. Alright, let's read some of yours, shall we? So the first spicy hot take is that Patrick Rothfuss stinks. That's hard to say. He's the guy who wrote The Name of the Wind. I don't know why he stinks. The person did not elaborate. Whether he is not a nice person, the author himself, or whether his writing is just not for this person, but pretty much every popular author out there definitely will have people who think that they suck. Which just goes to show that even if you're super, super popular, your writing still isn't going to be for everybody. This spicy hot take is that fan fiction is a valid writing medium, agree, and not just practice or easier than other types of writing. I pretty much agree, yeah. I mean, if you're really trying and putting in the effort, there's no reason that it should be easier than any other type of writing. You need to have a different skill set to write fanfic than other fiction. Kind of agree. A lot of times there is a different style to fan fiction, and sometimes I will write differently if I'm writing fanfic than when I am writing original fic, but there are a lot of skills that I use in fanfic that are becoming way more popular right now. Like, the styles in fanfic are becoming popular in regular fiction. And I'm seeing it a lot, especially in fantasy. This person says that more adaptations should be cartoons or anime-style shows. That's interesting. I do think that we could reach for animation a lot more than we do, especially in the United States. There are some really amazing shows that are animated, and I do wish that people would consider it as a medium more often. This person says that they feel that they learn more from read-along style videos, both the ones that I do and what other people do, than what they learn from actual writing advice videos. And I can kind of see why. Like, it probably depends on how you learn, right? But being able to look at somebody else's words and like dissect that and take it apart and look at what they're doing well and what they're doing poorly, I could see how that could be a really useful and helpful way to learn. So I hope that some of my read-alongs are indeed helpful to you. This next person is probably going to make some enemies. I fully admit to being a bad reader. I speed read through the text and fold the corners of the pages to mark my place. I sometimes would fold the whole page in half. Fight me, I'll cry. I'm not gonna fight you, probably. What you do with your books is your business, in my opinion. And as much as it like hurts me to think of me dog-earing a page anymore, I used to do that when I was a kid, but I don't do it anymore. I also love the look of a book that has clearly kind of been so loved that it looks abused. There's something about a book that's just so tattered and falling apart, and like the cover's falling off, and you can tell that it's been read a million times, that just draws me. I love imperfection just in general. So honestly, like, as much as it kind of hurts me to think about doing it, I also like the end results, kind of. Although I am not a speed reader, so... But whatever you gotta do. They also say that they think it's best if we never learn who wrote My Immortal or why. Some of you may know My Immortal as a very cringy, potentially fake, like potentially satirical, but probably not, Harry Potter fan fiction that was written many a moon ago. A million YouTubers have already covered it. At this point, do we really need to know who wrote it? Honestly, I'm more interested in the why, whether it was intended to be satirical or whether it was just somebody faffing around. I don't care who wrote it. I just kind of want to know what they were actually trying for. This person says, about 90% of the time someone refers to something as grimdark, I usually think, I didn't really think it was. And the hate towards grimdark to me is a bit strange. Shitty things happen, why not be honest about it? That's fair. We're actually going to talk a little bit about that with some of my other unpopular opinions. And their second thing is not a judgment or anything, but I remain disappointed at the amount of times I hear sci-fi discussed and neither Octavia Butler or Anne Leckie are even mentioned ever, which I completely agree with. Please let women sci-fi writers out of this weird purgatory in which they live, because if publishers figure out that we like sci-fi written by women, maybe someone will publish my sci-fi. Also, women are good at writing sci-fi, and we are notoriously pushed out of sci-fi in publishing still to this day. It's an ongoing thing. It's very difficult to get your sci-fi published as a woman. I've tried some Octavia Butler, but I don't think I was in the mood, so I'm going to go back to her later. So I think I was just in a slump and she wasn't the author to get me out of it. But like, please, read female sci-fi writers. This person says, the entire mystery genre is a huge disappointment to me. 90% of the book consists of telling you that there is a big secret and it's going to be awesome. And then they finally do tell you what the big secret is, and it's 100% going to be very disappointing. Because no secret is interesting enough to live up to the expectation that was built, and most of the time you were able to guess it beforehand. It's a really tough thing to balance too, because you do want to be surprised, but at the same time, if the reader couldn't see it coming, if there was no way for them to see it coming, then a lot of times the twist utterly fails because you're like, well, why would that happen? That doesn't make any sense. So as a writer of something that's either mystery or thriller, it's an incredibly delicate tightrope to walk, where you want your reader to feel clever if they did solve the mystery and not disappointed that they solved it, and also still have a little bit of surprise for maybe the readers who aren't trying to solve it or just didn't solve it. It is so difficult, and there's a reason I don't really write mystery. I do understand being kind of fed up with that situation where it is kind of always the same. You're promised some big reveal and then you get there and it either doesn't make any sense because the author was trying too hard to have a surprise, or you've guessed it like a third of the way through the book and now you're just sitting around waiting for them to actually reveal that you're right. 100% agree with this hot take. Adult books do not need to have explicit sex scenes or lots of swearing to be adult books. Thank you, yes. This person says, one writing opinion I have that at least seems unpopular in the circles I occupy is that I dislike when people say a writer's block isn't real and you just need to push through it. I understand that most of the time they're talking about people who, in their opinion, simply aren't willing to sit down and do the work, but too often they don't acknowledge that there are many other reasons someone may experience a block. Sometimes the worst possible thing to do is push through it. And I feel like I can agree with this. Just because it hasn't been my experience doesn't mean that I don't understand that there would be people who would struggle. Because for me, personally, the best thing to do is push through it. For me, I just have to put my head down and keep going. But I could totally understand how someone else with different experiences than me and a different life than me might need a break to get out of their writer's block, might need something else to get them out of their writer's block. So I agree that the blanket advice of just push through it is not going to work for everybody. However, if you can push through it, I have found that the more you practice doing that, the easier it does become. If that is a tactic that works for you. Basically, you just have to figure out what sort of tactic is going to get you out of your writer's block and master that. This person says, I hate romanticized mental illness. It's not cute or quirky to have panic attacks. Depressive episodes don't end with 6 books written and the portrait of a stranger you saw on the bus and so on. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also, to jump off of this, hate it when a character's one and only trait is their mental illness. Like, hi, I'm anxiety, and I'm here to just be anxious through the entire book, and that's it. But yes, there's a lot of romanticization, and there's also the romanticization of curing people's mental illnesses with romance. And I just think that we could handle mental illness better in our fiction in general. Just, like, strive for that. Ooh, this one's spicy. If following a formula to write is being lazy and not creative at all. I disagree. And I know what you're thinking. Julian, you're a pantser. You don't fucking listen to any of the rules. Yes and no. I do listen to the rules, it's just in a different order. But also, if following a formula or a beat sheet or something is helpful to you and it gets your book written, it gets the words on the page, yeah, it is still creative. It is not lazy. I do disagree with this person, but we're not here to shade anybody, so we're not going to go after them. I just personally disagree. This person says that they are trash for dream sequences, and I know that dream sequences have kind of fallen out of popularity. I don't feel one way or the other about dream sequences. If there's too many, if it's just like every single chapter has a dream sequence, and then the chapter ends or begins with the character waking up, I'm gonna notice. But it's not necessarily because of the dream sequences, it's because of the uncreative flow of the story. So yeah, I just don't really feel one way or another about them. This person says, I don't like hate to love romance, enemies to lovers. I don't hate it, but I don't like to read it, or even really like to write it. If I see a book is hate to love 99% of the time, I will put it down and keep walking. Completely valid. I still have a little bit of me that likes hate to love, but I'm leaning away from it myself as well. Probably because we're so oversaturated with it right now. It is like the thing. And I'm just kind of like, okay, that's enough. This person says, you don't have to seek publication to be a successful writer. I never plan on releasing my books. I'm primarily writing them for me to have fun and to have stories I might be able to read to my future kids and whatnot. To me, those count as success, even if my works never make a single cent. 100% agree. Yes. Here on this channel, we are not here to say that you have to take any specific road with your writing if you don't want to. Being a hobbyist, just writing for you, is 1000% a valid choice and a great way to go if that is what you want. Just because I want, for some pathological reason I can't understand, to have my stories published and out there, doesn't mean that everyone has to want that. And I love it. I love that you're finding fulfillment in this. Just like people who paint but never sell their paintings. So many people create beautiful art just for the sake of creating the art, and that's great. And this is another person who does say that fan fiction is valid and useful and helps you to learn writing skills. I agree. I agree so much I made a whole video about it. So, links will be around. And they do say that we just need to stop looking down on fanfic writers. And again, obviously, I agree. We don't really have any time here on this channel for people who are going to be looking down on fanfic writers. I mean, you still can. I can't stop you, but, like, maybe don't be, like, super overt about it around here. Around these parts. Pilgrim. Alright, those are all of your unpopular opinions. We're gonna go back to mine, and you can get mad at me. Ho ho ho. Alright, you remember that comment that someone left about grimdark? My unpopular opinion is that I don't particularly like grimdark, and I find it exhausting. And you can call me a little weenie baby if you want to. I don't care. I go to books for escapism, and the world that I live in is fucking grimdark enough. Thank you. I would prefer characters who smile sometimes, who occasional good things happen to. I just cannot with characters who just constantly having bad shit happen to them the entire book. I don't need them to be sunny, happy, fun times all the time. I just need to know that there is sometimes joy for them. That's all I want. Sometimes a little joy. My next unpopular opinion is that I don't read craft books. I don't find them useful to me. And I'm sure there's going to be some people who are like, well, you can't be an author unless you find out what the greats are saying and what instructions they're giving. And I'm like, I would rather read their fiction books and see for myself what they're doing than listen to their instructions. My next unpopular opinion is that I am over huge series. I was never very into them to begin with, but now as an adult, I'm really just not into series anymore. Please, more standalones, especially standalone fantasy. And I say that as someone who is writing now a couple of series. Oops. But I still have a very big place in my heart for standalone. Here's one that I might get some pushback against. Your book not being picked up by an agent / published does not automatically make it a bad book. I have been told by people who are not very helpful that if my book doesn't get picked up, that means it must suck. It didn't deserve to be published at all. When in reality, there are 1,000 factors that cause an agent to pass on your work. And no, I'm not just talking about myself. There are many, many authors whose books deserve to be published who are just going to be passed over for a variety of reasons. Maybe the market is wrong. Maybe the agent is only looking at word count and doesn't care about anything else. Maybe the agent didn't have their Wheaties that morning. There's so many factors that go into being chosen. And finally, my last spiciest of hot takes is that I prefer Coraline the book over Coraline the movie. I know that's the most popular one when people say they like a movie better than a book. It's usually they go for Coraline. I still like the book better. Quite frankly, it's because my brain came up with cooler monsters than the movie did. And the movie monsters are very cool. And it's a very visually wonderful movie. It's great to watch, but the book is better. In my opinion. In my unpopular opinion.
That's a spicy meatball!
You can fight me, but there's not a lot of point, because I'm just like a random person on the internet, so your opinion and your thoughts are in no danger from me. At least, not until my mind control ray is finished. But that's it for unpopular bookish and writerly opinions. Thank you everybody who contributed their thoughts to this. We love some spicy opinions around here. If you would like to contribute to an upcoming video, I do suggest that you subscribe to my channel so that you can see more of my stuff. And a lot of times I will ask questions on my community tab that'll end up becoming part of videos, so definitely pay attention to the channel if you want to be in on that. There's a lot of content on this channel. Hoo boy, is there a lot, because I've been doing this for a while, so feel free to wander around, check it all out. It's a good time. I'm starting to lose my voice and I'm only 3 videos in, so that's not a good sign. If you liked what you saw here and you want to see more, you can also support me over on Patreon, where you can get exclusive content never seen here on the regular channel, not even one time, as well as a lot of other fun rewards. And you can contact me on my social media, links in the doobly-doo. You know what to doobly-doo. And I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Steve, Kit, Hidden Glade, Persephone, Light Julie, OS, Anna, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Artemis, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Sarah, Lennox, and Merween. Who cares if you disagree? You are not me. Who made you king of anything? So you dare tell me who to be? Who died and made you king of anything?